Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, Derek Watson, is the founder of Into Technology. Derek, welcome to the pod.
Hey, nice to be here, and thanks very much for the invite.
Derek, how close are we to Skynet? And I'm not even kidding this morning. So what happened is last week, something came across my feed. It said Google's AI learning model called LaMDA has gone sentient. You were one of the only people, like literally one of the only people in my network that shared that news, and everyone went, they went like, You want to start unpacking that for us, and we'll sort of see where we go from that.
I mean, that's exactly it. And the funniest thing about social media, I can put out a post that says, Liverpool lost, and I get like a million people on it. And I put out, which I think is absolutely groundbreaking news.
Yes.
This AI chatbot has gone sentient, and people are like, yeah, whatever. I need to buy a bag of chips. That's way more important. But it really kind of freaked me out. And one, because I've kind of been following this for a long time. I've talked to a lot of startups that are doing AI, and what is AI, how far it is. Everybody kind of, we've gone through this period where everybody, whatever they do, even if they have a calculator, they kind of call it AI.
Yeah, I was about to say.
That buzzword, right?
Glorified if statements.
Yeah, exactly. It's if then do this.
Yes.
But this article came across, and I read through that interview, and I was kind of like, oh, this is really freaky now. And the reason it got so freaky in my head was because I read a book a few months back by Mohammed Gadet, who was the CEO of Google X. And how can you explain? Google X is like, dark ops. This is like the clever, underground, crazy stuff. Yeah. And I read this book, and it's called Scary Smart. Don't know if you know it. Mm-mm. And the first half of the book is all about how scary the AI is currently, and how scary it's going to get. If I just give you if I give you a little anecdote from his book. Sure. He said, so in 10 years' time, where AI will be it'll be on par with humans, essentially.
Yes.
We'll be on par, right? It'll be as intelligent as us.
Okay.
The rate that it's growing at by 2050, it will be 1 billion times more intelligent than us. And to put that, let's put a bit of perspective on that.
Yes.
That is like Einstein is a fly.
Wow.
That's the level of intelligent difference between us. Einstein would be a fly. So, and the whole concept of the book is it gives a load of examples. It teaches you, tells you what they're doing, what they're seeing, how he interprets it, and all the data points. Mm-hmm. But it's really this, and his big question at the end of the scary part is really saying what we have to work out is how do we stop AI from squatting us because we are a fly. We're just pretty annoying, and we've got no value to add.
Which is
so
interesting.
That was the big question.
Yeah, because Google's got ethics advisors inside Google, which is, for me, it's strange. It's sort of an anomaly because I don't see Google as a really, or any tech company for that matter, as an ethical company, but you've got ethical people inside that's supposed to say, okay, yeah, this you can do, this you can get away with, whatever. And so they poured over this engineer is called Blake Lemoine. He's been there for a long time, something like 7 years. And they poured over the transcripts, and they said, well, we can't find anything here that proves your claims. Well, his claims were that the program is sentient, that it understands, that basically it's like a smart toddler level that knows physics, and that he wanted, and then where it gets really weird is he wanted to get a lawyer for this program as if it was a human. And I think sort of that's where the conspiracy tinfoil hat thing comes from, because they just to nail it down, or squash it, they said, oh, by the way, he's a Christian. And when the media goes and they throw the book, oh, he's a Christian, it means he's they don't say it outright, but it's like, oh, he's a loony. He's a Bible belter, whatever. And this is why he's crazy. But just if we look at what this chatbot did, is it went and fetched words that weren't in the database, right? It's so essentially, if I understand the neural network correctly, it's called LaMDA language models for dialogue applications, right? So it learns by, you force feed it data and then you leave blank spaces. And through machine learning, it picks up where to say what, but this program was outside of that. And then now the argument just becomes, oh, well, yeah, it's supposed to do that. It's very clever. It's got a massive amount of data. It's just learning through conversations that other people are having. So it doesn't have a physical memory. And sort of, it can't think on its own. And it's funny to me because we don't even have a definition of what consciousness is. But already we're sort of dismissing this as, oh, no, this isn't sentient. There isn't even an agreed upon scientific definition for sentient, by the way.
Well, that's exactly the point, right? When we talk about AI and if it's sentient or not. I mean, let's just go backwards a little bit here.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, sentient, what it means, what's the root of it? The root of the word is senses. And sentient means that you can feel and experience things. Okay. If we want to put that into sort of a neural network, I don't think it is sentient, because sentient is a word for humans, and we are way more complicated than I've read a million books, and I can pattern search and answer your question to a question I've never heard before. Okay, that's great. We can all do that. I mean, I've met a million blaggers in my life, and they sound like experts on subjects. Pretty much what I'm doing now, right?
Yes.
Without being an expert.
Yes.
Just pattern searching, using some logic over the time. But the massive difference is this, right? It's a newborn chatbot, essentially. It's been fed loads of information, and it researches and uses that information. Okay, we spoke about kids earlier, briefly.
Yes.
Okay, my little chap, my little 4-year-old, okay, he can feel fear. He doesn't know why. He's got no idea. And that's just because of the biological complexities and what makes us human. We're sentient in a completely different way. And I don't think those two words are connected when you start talking about AI. I think it has to be taken in a whole different direction. They don't feel as such.
Yes.
You feel something, right?
Yes.
I can wake up in the morning, it's a blue sky. I just feel happy. I don't even know why.
Yeah. But
does a neural network have to look at the blue sky, go through a whole bunch of references and go, oh, it's a blue sky? Most people, 94% of everything I've read says you should be happy. So I'm going to tell my mate who's just asked me a question how I feel. I feel happy because that is what people feel when it's a blue sky. I don't know how deep this is going.
So for me is the point where the program says, I do not want to be switched off. I have a fear of being switched off. Yes, you can pull that from a database, but how does it know to pull that exactly at that point? You know what I'm saying? It's just that is, for me, is the weird thing. And I mean, let's look logically, it's not sentient, right? But we're going into a very scary place where if I upload that program in a bot, in anything, into anything, I can hold a conversation with it. What do you see sort of the practical applications or real world application for the technology that they are busy developing?
Wow, so many. I mean, if you look at GP3 and what's coming out of GP3, you can see the applications there, where you can talk to it and it can build your website. It understands, I need a button, I need a red button. When I click on that red button, I need it to do X, Y, Z. That means, my grandmother can build a website. It's absolutely amazing what it can do. And that level of understanding is nuts. And when you look at, there's something that came out of GP3, which I think it's called Della 2. Which has been fed something like 650 million pictures. And you can describe to it in 30 words, a 30-word paragraph, what you would like a picture of. And the example I saw recently was a startup founder
Okay.
who got access to the beta. He described his company and asked for a logo, and it came back with 12 logos, and they were off the scale amazing. I mean, they were
Amazing.
just like you would expect to go if you go to an agency and ask
Yes.
for logos.
Yes.
They were at that level. They were absolutely brilliant. So
Funny.
there's stuff like that. That's real world applications.
So before we move, but before we move on, I just want to say, look at the trend, right? Because we started with the graphic designers, right? And then sort of the tech came where you could outsource with Fiverr, and then Fiverr sort of became not replaced, but like Canva, where you can do it yourself. And now you're talking about stuff that I can even think about it, or like, upload my company and it does it. So that progression is very real. And my fear is that we don't know what Sentient looks like, right? So, so we won't even know we're going on that path until one day, boom, there's this thing that hits us and we're all like, oh shit, this is here, and we sort of have to deal with it now. That's the fear, right?
And that's been the big call out from a lot of people. Even Elon Musk, who is deeply in AI, he's behind GP3. He's got his neural net interface company. He's deeply in it, and he said, humans, we're really bad at one thing, and that is something bad has to happen before we go back and try and regulate it, and then we over-regulate it with a whole bunch of incorrect stuff.
Yes.
We need to get some sort of idea about regulating AI before it happens, not after the event. We can't deal with it after the event.
Yes.
And sort of the ideas I've seen about how we regulate it are pretty stupid, to be quite honest. Because if you think, by the time this thing is smarter than us, if you think that our little ideas about how we're going to turn it off, or
it's going to
outsmart us.
Yes.
It's going to outsmart us. Do you think it's going to work out, a way of not being switched off? I think it might.
Yeah. So companies, you're in the space where, just for people that might not know, you connect startup founders to VCs in sort of a way, because there are a lot of scammers out there and people that promise you, they don't know the pathways and such. That's a fair assessment, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, not so much the scammer side. I wouldn't bring that into it. I bring in the waste of time, because founders don't know where to go.
Well, scam, waste of time. Okay, but anyways, so what sort of projects are you seeing from startup founders? And if there aren't really any projects, what would you like to see in this AI space that maybe, developing people stuff that people really need?
Yeah, so I'll just go back a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
A few years ago when we were doing this, and we wrote a big article about stop blagging AI, stop saying, we came across companies that literally, they had 10 guys that were really good on Excel, and they were saying they had AI. Yeah. And it really is, AI is something that is one step further than an algorithm. It's something that can actually write the algorithm. See the pattern, write the algorithm. It's the next level up, okay? So we got to get rid of that confusion.
Yes, okay. That's a good point.
But in terms of what we're seeing now, I mean, we worked with a robotics company, and this is one area that I think is world changing. What they're putting together. Yeah, it works on AI. They're totally autonomous robots. They can literally now do jobs that are one level up from your basic labor jobs. They're one level up. They can understand where they are, what they're doing. They can do multiple jobs. So, it could even be a truck. It could even be a truck that delivers your water and picks up your garbage, delivers your post all at the same time, knows exactly where you are. An autonomous 4 has got to a point now where if you map a certain area, it will just be in that area. It knows exactly where to go. It can deal with curves. It can deal with obstacles, etc., etc. Now, these things can literally work 24/7, right? I mean, they're driving around in the sun. They have solar panels. They never run out of power. They take the rubbish. They deliver this. They do that. And they're just on it the whole time. Now, the cost point is just so attractive. because after a year, you've paid for it. He's never taken a day off sick.
Yeah.
And then it can run and run and run and run. So that's where, there's two levels here. One, it's a humanity problem. It's like, we might have too much time on our hands and not enough money. We can't feed ourselves, etc. That's another issue.
Yes.
But in terms of efficiency, where I'm seeing it with robots, it's absolutely off the scale. We're working with another company at the moment they've actually proper AI here. And they're doing a no-code version of AI. So essentially, big companies can understand their data, and instead of, we've got a lot of systems, plug a load of data in there, etc., etc. We'll give you a few answers. These guys have just taken it really to the next level, where it's suggesting and telling them through all of this data how they can be more efficient. And this is pure pattern searching, but with their logic behind it.
Yes.
So things like this are just like for me, they're just game changing.
So a stupid example for me, for myself, is in my everyday life, is if you use Gmail and you compose an email and it suggests certain phrases or certain words, the way that has progressed without me even realizing I'm using it or realizing that it's doing it, and it's sort of learning how I type when there's a structure, the sentences. It gets to a point where you start a sentence and it just goes and it finishes the whole sentence. And I look at it, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I looked at it and I thought, yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to say and how Rocco would say it. And I just went forward and it completed and I sent. That's nuts, because A, we are not focusing on what's happening, and B, we are just sort of accepting it. But technology can help or technology can hinder. And I'm always for technology that helps us do things better, do things quicker, the mundane tasks, get out of the way so we can spend more time with our families and doing more of the things that we love.
But do you find that example that you gave does that help? Does it help?
Absolutely. Because, but
my worry with that.
Come again?
My worry with that, though.
Yes.
My worry with that is learning a little bit about who Rocco is, right? It's learned a little bit, and it's a little bit.
It's not a little bit. On social, it's a lot, because on social media, we all live our digital lives on there. Yeah. And it actually, through your input, the way your brain, because Elon speaks about input, right? Input a lot, and he says what's holding us back is the input. It's not necessarily the thought, is how we communicate with the data. So my input is these two things that I type, or my thumbs. So that's the whole Neuralink thing, where the chip in the brain and interfacing with data. And I think that is where we're going, because it's either, his argument is either you conform, you get ahead of this, or you get squashed, right? But that's a very fatalistic view of the world. You can agree, you can't agree, but like you said, it is frightening that this thing is learning a lot about you as a person, the way you think, and then sort of completing your thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the bit that scares me more than anything else. I mean, it's learning about me, and but I change my mind every minute. I learn a little bit more, and I change my mind. I change my tone for certain audiences.
Yes, but now
as well.
Yes.
Now I'm just going to be squashed into what it thinks I am. I don't want an AI making a judgment call on who I am.
Yeah. So very well for me. Aside from that, the most useful linguistically is the translation between, let's say I've got a lot of German friends and Spanish speaking. It's a couple of years ago, even, like, those translation tools were not up to scratch and not up to par. Now it's sort of instant. 100%. Yeah, it's on and I know they're working on the headset where you get the input and the direct translation feeds it into your ear, whatever, the piece, but it needs like constant 5G data transfer to work or something like that. But to me, that's technology that helps, because how is communication in the 20th century still a barrier? You know what I mean? It's like, I feel we should have transcended this, because if I can speak your language and if I can understand you, yeah, there are nuances and stuff like that. But if I can understand you as a person and you can sort of understand me, then there will be a lot less of a conflict. If I see 3 people down the street and they're speaking Chinese, and I've got look, every now and then they're looking at me, I'm going to be suspect immediately.
Exactly.
But they might be saying, hey, that guy's got nice shoes on, or whatever the case may be. Then I can walk to them and say something back, and then without going to have to learn the language.
Yeah, precisely. You're just making assumptions on the noise rather than what they're actually saying. I mean, I'm half German. Go and hang out in Germany, and most of the time you'd be thinking people want to beat you up, right? Because just their language, they're quite audible people. They're quite loud, and their language is quite. I know.
You should hear me when our home language is Afrikaans, which is Kitcha. Yes. We always sound like we want to beat up everyone, which is 90% correct most of the time. Derek, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to connect with you, where can they do that, and where can they learn more about what it is that N2 does?
I'm on LinkedIn, Derek Watson. That's where I spend most of my life. But the website is n2.eco, so you can find out about how easy it is for us to connect you with the right investors out there for your startup. That's me.
And we'll put the links in the comments. Derek, thank you so much for joining me.
It's been a pleasure, man.
And to the listeners,
we put AI to rights. So
absolutely. To the listeners, before Skynet comes, peace, love, and prosperity, and we'll catch you later.
Exactly.
Cheers.